Two things. Number one, we are totally playing Seven Wonders wrong. And number two, you didn't win. 6 of a kind. Ha! Suck on that, motherfucker! Happy Valentine's Day and welcome to Unpub News, Episode 3. No, I am not ditching my super cool green screen for the Unpub News. Instead, as you may have guessed from the opening sequence, that I'm trying to bring attention to a brand new Kickstarter campaign, which is the Board with Life Season 2 funding. So I figured what a better way to do it than to copy Chris's Board with Life news setup showing off my game collection, well, a small fraction of it, and do it the way Chris does, but without his amazingly awesome beard, which I hope one day the puberty fairies will grant me. Please? Yes, Board with Life Season 2 is currently on Kickstarter right now trying to reach funding. So these people are exceptionally awesome, both the cast and the crew, and they know how to host a hell of a party, as you probably heard me talk about the one at BGGCon. So, just do yourself a favor, take 5 minutes, check out their Kickstarter campaign, and then also check out their web series themselves so you know that when you throw your hard-earned money at the Kickstarter campaign, that it's not getting wasted. Like, these guys make quality, funny stuff. And yeah, I want them to continue doing it because I'm selfish and I want stuff to help me distract myself from doing work. Yes. Alright, next up though, with Unpub's News' very first interview, we brought in David Chott, who has recently launched Kickstarter of Lagoon, Land of Druids, and we talked to him about that as well as the feat of self-publishing. So, with that story, we go to Daryl Louder. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it's not every day that we can use the magic of a coat hanger, some tape, a blue noodle, a tripod, and a black presentation folder to bring your friend into your living room. But today, we did just that. Today we're designed by game designer, stylish dresser, and great guy all around, David Chott. It's Chott, not shot. The H is silent.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Whose first self-designed and self-published game, Lagoon, Land of Druids, is now on Kickstarter. As of right now, it's just over 260% funded. So, David, congrats on that and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I'm excited that you're excited.
Yeah, I'm dressed up too. I'm wearing a suit.
Yeah, you know, it's a little funeral with the black and white, but that's all right.
Right.
So, before we jump into Lagoon, which I want to talk about Lagoon, obviously, I got to ask the big question, the ballsy question, more or less. Why self-publishing? Like, what made you say, you know what, I'm going this route? Because a lot of people are interested, and a lot of people are curious. Do I self-publish or do I find a publisher? And you know, what was the decision factor for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it has a lot to do, at least for me personally, with what are my personal goals. So, you know, I think that I have a lot of friends who are designers that they have, you know, their careers and they have, you know, like a sustainable living from some other work, and they just have a passion for designing games. And so then, you know, like designing games and not being a publisher is the best place for that to have, you know, for that to, you know, for it to have in their lives. I think for me, like I was looking for a career change, and you know, I was like, maybe games could be something that I could do, but as a game designer, I think there's very few game designers, and maybe, you know, you would need only 2 hands to count the number of game designers in the world that can make a living. You know,
yeah.
You know, that's because they've had some massive hits. And so my thought was, well, if I publish my own games, not that I can keep rolling in money, but then I'm, you know, like I'm getting, you know, a bigger slice of the overall kind of pie, and I get to kind of run my own show and make sure that my games are produced without compromising my creative vision for them. You know, like the theme is very important to me, and I think that comes through in Lagoon. And like tightly coupling the theme and the mechanics is really important to me. And if I put that into a publisher's hands, it could end up very differently than it is now. And that's not something I really wanted to see happen.
All right. Now, so is Three Hairs Games going to be around for a while? I mean, besides just Lagoon, like, are you going to be looking for other designers, or?
Yeah, so my vision for Three Hairs Games is for all the games that it publishes to be set in the world introduced by Lagoon, Land of Druids. And so
nice.
I want to have other games besides this one, but I want them to all be set in the same world and kind of build that story and tell the story of Lagoon and reveal that using tabletop games as narrative stepping stones. So that's kind of my vision, and why I invested so much time in coming up with the idea for the world and the art direction and the things like that I've done to kind of really try and establish something that's not generic. And so that's my part of my vision and my strategy for Three Hairs Games.
That's cool. So it's kind of a really, it's kind of like Greater Than Games with Sentinels of the Multiverse. Like, they built their world and they self-published, and look where they're at now.
Yes.
So
exactly. Actually, I had an interview with Grant Rodiak on his blog where it's just like the day that Lagoon launched on Kickstarter, where he asked me what's unique about Three Hairs Games. I'm like, well, I think it's unique that I wanted to do what I described. And then I realized later, I went back on the blog and commented, I'm like, actually, Greater Than Games is doing that. So it's not unique, but it is unusual.
It's very rare. It is very rare.
Yeah. And I actually thought it makes me, I've had some contact with the Greater Than Games folks just briefly online, but it does make me interested in kind of connecting with them more to talk about the unique kind of opportunities and challenges of that approach, which I think is really exciting. So like building your own intellectual property and investing in that, I think that it's just like I think it's just a fun way to go about it that can lead to kind of a richer sense of immersion in your games.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, speaking of Three Hairs focus, Lagoon, why don't you tell us a little bit about Lagoon, Land of Druids?
Yeah, I would love to. So Lagoon is a game about determining the destiny of a world. In this case, Lagoon is the name of the world. It's a fantasy world. So this game is for 1 to 4 players, and it plays most games in 60 minutes or less. And in the game, players, you will lead a circle of druids to explore the world. And there's a bunch of different locations in the world that are represented by these hexagonal tiles, like on the table in front of you.
Yep.
And each of those tiles represents a different enchanted location in the world that has magical powers. And so you'll be exploring the world and building the world by exploring these tiles from a bag. And also it'll be different every time. And the central struggle in the game is that there are 3 different energies in the world that are competing for dominance. And each tile is aligned with a different one of those 3 energies. And since they're double-sided, you have a choice when you explore which energy do I want to put into the world. And at the end of the game, one energy will prevail, and the player who most supported that energy will become the winner. They will have become the master of Lagoon's destiny.
Yeah. I've played Lagoon, and I absolutely love it, and I've told you that. I played it at BGG Con. I didn't play it in Unpub 4, unfortunately, because I didn't play anything. But thankfully, and I much appreciatively, you sent me a prototype, and I played it since then, and I still absolutely love the game, so it wasn't a fluke. I wasn't just on a drunk thing. So, yes. But the one thing I told you when I got done playing it is, when you're done after your very first time playing it, you realize, like, oh my god, this game is so much larger than I thought going into it. Like, halfway into it is when you realize all the other possibilities and all the other options that you had while playing it. And the first time you kind of had that mind-bending, fiasco, that it's not a bad thing, but it's like, whoa, I can do that? And it's just very cool. So where did you get that idea? Like, where did the whole, puzzle but obvious strategic game come from? Is it, are you trying to conquer Mensa and take them down? Like, how did this happen?
Well, I think there's 2 ways of answering that. I think the short answer is I am a huge fan of emergent gameplay, where you have a framework of rules that from that emerges, different situations and opportunities for players. I kind of, cut my teeth as a serious gamer. Playing in college, I played a bunch of Magic the Gathering, and I played other games like Innovation, and like even Tigers and Euphrates. There's a number of games that have a lot of emergence, and I just love it because it allows for such rich possibilities. It can surprise you. You know, as even as a designer, Lagoon, you know, frequently surprises me, and you know, early on it constantly surprised me, even though I designed it. And so I think designing for emergence allows for there to be a greater depth than even you may realize if you're lucky. So I think it's just that kind of trying to design something that's emergent from the you know, that was a goal from the beginning. I think it's a big help to get there. I think I got extraordinarily lucky as well. So that's kind of the first part of the answer is designing for emergence. And then second, you know, honestly, I had hit a wall as a designer, and I had shelved all the designs I was working on, and I was just like, I just have no inspiration. And so then I went through all of my notebooks from years and years of taking notes and not making prototypes, but taking notes. And I hit upon three different things that were in my notes that really excited me, and actually I realized I can combine them in what is Lagoon. And so I think for me, like having all the back kind of library of mechanics and things that maybe they didn't work the first time, or they were just a little sketch of an idea, and then kind of crossbreeding those and, you know, putting them together allowed me to kind of have something get off the ground without having to do all the heavy lifting at once. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. A lot of people hit that brick wall, and it's kind of cool to see a breakthrough, and then that's born.
Yeah.
So, besides the game itself, and like I said, the gameplay is excellent. The one thing that everyone is continuously talking about, ever since you started teasing stuff before Unpub 4, was the art for the game. It is absolutely gorgeous, and it's funny you brought up Magic, because I myself used to play Magic ever since the Dark came out, and it's very reminiscent of, you know, Magic the Gathering style art. And I think that's the thing. It's just the detail on it and everything is just, for a tile game, it's kind of rare and unheard of within board games right now. So this is absolutely gorgeous. So how did the art and everything come together? I mean, how many people do you have enslaved in your basement doing this?
Well, thank you for the praise for the art. I can take very little credit directly for that, for sure. You know, it started when I first kind of felt like Lagoon was probably something worth publishing. Early on, I felt like I saw that glimmer of promise. I started to think about the art, and I found a local artist here in Portland, Oregon, and reached out to him and met up with him. And so I was like, okay, I was just really excited to meet his work, and I thought, okay, I'm going to work with him. And then when I started getting around to, okay, I need to sign a contract, we were talking about the contract, and then he got a full-time job, and so I lost my artist. And I was like, this was in November, well, you know, like right before PGT Con. I was freaking out because I'm like, I need to get the art done like super soon, and I lost my artist. And so I just spent literally like 30, 40 hours, like a week, just on DeviantArt and other online art portfolio sites. And I wrote a bunch of artists, and I just spent so much time researching and finding an artist that I could be excited about. And I got incredibly lucky to discover Eduardo Garcia, who's the primary artist. So, however, the interesting thing is the artist I wanted to originally work with, Chase Villard, is actually a secondary artist because he ended up having more time than he expected in his job to do some more art. So actually some of the little idols that I uploaded the art for that to Board Game Geek recently, Chase did that art. And so Eduardo couldn't get all the art done in the time frame for my schedule for the game. And so then I brought in Chase, and he's doing some of the art as well. So they're just doing an amazing job with the illustrations. And then, not to be undersold, is Peter Woken, who is my graphic designer. And I actually connected with him in the summer. I knew about him from Flat Hat Podcast, where he was a guest, and they talked to him about his work on some of their games. And before doing some freelance work with Flat Hat, he was a full-time employee at Fantasy Flight. So Peter has a good pedigree of being being a veteran industry, board game industry graphic designer. And so I brought him on board, like July or August. And so he's helped kind of bring things together and make, all the graphic design and visual presentation. top notch. And so the three of them are the ones that get, you know, the credit for making it so beautiful. I've tried to coordinate that and try and, you know, make things kind of coherent and, you know, kind of meet my vision, but it's like the talent they bring to the table is just extraordinary. I feel incredibly lucky to be working with them. Incredibly.
Well, their work is, it's amazing. And thanks for this, as a graphic designer, thanks for the shout out for graphic design. We truly are like the unsung heroes of the whole thing, because our job is to make the art in the game look better without being obvious.
Well, I think that, you know, a lot of times the graphic design is art as well. Like, you know, like the border, the tile borders and the seed icons and, you know, things like that Peter produced. You know, they need to, you know, they need to have an artistic role to fulfill, as well as, you know, the kind of the game kind of usability role. And he did a masterful job with those.
He did very much, very, very much. All right, so David, what's cons coming up for you, and where can people get in touch with you? What's your 2014 look like?
Yeah, so my calendar, I've been adding cons recently that I'm excited about. So first off, here in the Portland, Oregon area, I'm going to go to GameStorm in March. And then earlier that week, actually, I'll be in Vegas for the Gamma trade show. So if any Unpub news listeners are going to be there, I'd love to you know, come and say hi.
Nice.
And then back in Portland in May, there's the Portland Analog Game event I'll be at. And then the bigger cons, I'll be at Origins in June, Gen Con in August, Sasquatch is a small con in Seattle that I'll be at in November, and then BGG Con again in November. And I'm hoping to have at most of those cons, you know, maybe all of them, run like a Lagoon tournament with prototype copies of the game initially, and then hopefully at Gen Con I will have the manufactured game available for retail sale for the first time there, and I would love to run a whole bunch of events and give away a bunch of copies of Lagoon there. So that's what I'm looking at for my con schedule. And then folks can find Lagoon Land of Druids on Kickstarter right now. If you search for Lagoon Kickstarter, I think you'll find it. And then my publishing company, 3 Hairs Games, you can find at 3, the number 3, Hairs, Hares, games.com. And then on Twitter, I'm 3 Hairs Games.
Nice. Very nice. Well, David, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, and obviously it's a great pleasure to see this game coming closer and closer to being, you know, final. So congrats on that, and again, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Gerald. It's an honor to be your guest on this show. I'm really excited about Unpub News, and yeah, it's been great talking with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, everyone, David Chott. Yay!